Few members of Britain's extended royal circle in the turbulent 20th century could boast a lineage as impeccable and aristocratic as that of Patricia Knoxball, the second Countess Mountbatten of Burma. Her presence in the royal world was unique, almost sacred, a living bridge between the fading Victorian era and the modern monarchy. As the eldest daughter of the famed Louis Mountbatten, the last Viceroy of India and the first Earl Mountbatten of Burma, and his glamorous, philanthropic wife, Edwina Ashley, Patricia was born into an atmosphere of state importance and imperial grandeur. By blood, she was a great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria and a first cousin to Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, making her one of the closest figures to the throne who did not hold the title of Royal Highness. It was no surprise that a young woman raised amid strict etiquette and the refined luxury of old English estates would choose a partner from one of Britain's most ancient noble families. Their love story unfolded in the shadows of the Second World War, adding a dramatic depth to their union. Patricia's chosen husband was John Knoxball, the 7th Baron Brabourne, a man of remarkable talent who would later become a successful and influential film producer. Their wedding in 1946 was more than a society event. It became one of the first grand celebrations of the post-war era, symbolizing Britain's return to peace and tradition. The scale of the occasion was reflected in the guest list, one that could rival a state banquet. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth themselves attended, but the greatest attention from the public and the press was drawn to the bridesmaids, Princess Elizabeth, the future queen, and Princess Margaret. They were still very young at the time, and their presence highlighted the intimate, almost familial bond between the houses of Windsor and Mountbatten. In the years to come, Lady Mountbatten would play an even more significant role in royal life, becoming the godmother of the current King Charles III, a gesture that forever bound the two families together. The Countess lived a long, eventful life, marked by history's triumphs and its tragedies, passing away in 2017. She left behind a legacy that cannot be measured by auction estimates alone. Within her ancestral home of Newhouse lay a true treasure trove, a unique collection of jewels and personal artifacts gathered over a lifetime and inherited through both distinguished branches of her family. Many of these pieces had never been shown to the public, kept locked away like sacred relics. They are, in many ways, the physical embodiment of the British Empire's history. Today, we open this long-closed casket and lift the veil on the relics that witnessed coronations, secret romances, imperial victories, and private sorrows of one of Britain's most powerful dynasties. Our journey into this world of brilliance and secrecy begins now. Among this vast collection, spanning several centuries, a special group of objects stands apart, pieces valued not for their gemstones, but for their intimate connection to the royal family's private history. These are the mourning jewels of the Victorian era. This tradition, born after the death of Prince Albert, became an emotional language through which Queen Victoria preserved the memory of those she lost. In Lady Mountbatten's possession were rare mementos tied to the tragic life of Victoria's second daughter, Princess Alice, Grand Duchess of Hesse. At the center of this memorial group is a solemn brooch made of black onyx, the quintessential material of 19th century mourning jewelry. In the middle sits a painted miniature portrait of Princess Alice, rendered with exquisite detail. The piece dates to 1879, created shortly after Alice's death from diphtheria in Darmstadt. For Queen Victoria, this brooch was a tangible reminder of her beloved daughter, and its presence in the Mountbatten collection reflects a direct line of inheritance from the crown itself. Beside it lies an equally significant artifact, an agate pendant adorned with natural pearls. In Victorian symbolism, pearls often represented tears, adding a poignant emotional layer. But the pendant's greatest treasure is hidden inside. It is a locket containing a curl of Princess Alice's hair. Keeping a loved one's hair was a common and deeply sentimental practice of the era, a way to preserve a physical fragment of someone dear. For example, a pendant of banded agate and diamonds, 1861. On the reverse side is an engraved dedication that gives the piece extraordinary provenance from Grandmama VR, Queen Victoria Regina. It reveals that the pendant was a personal gift from the Queen to her granddaughter, Princess Victoria of Hesse and Bahrain, the grandmother of Lady Patricia. Completing this historical trio is a diamond cross, restrained yet dignified despite its precious stones. Its center is enameled black onyx engraved with the name Alice, clearly marking its dedication to the late Duchess. These three items, the brooch, the locket of hair, and the inscribed cross, form a unified memorial ensemble passed tenderly down the female line of the family. They are not merely jewels, they are private historical documents, preserving the hidden sorrows of the House of Windsor, kept far from public eyes behind palace walls. To fully grasp the historical scale of this collection, we need to turn to one of the family's most significant and tragically lost relics. The famous star tiara, the diamond and pearl diadem we know from archival photographs of Lady Mountbatten, was in fact the second of two nearly identical pieces owned by the family. The story of the original tiara is a dramatic reminder of how the geopolitical disasters of the 20th century could sweep away not only lives, but masterpieces of high jewelry. Its provenance reaches back to the golden age of Europe's monarchies and is closely tied to Patricia's grandmother, Princess Victoria of Hesse and Bahrain. When Princess Victoria married Prince Louis of Battenberg in 1884, she received a lavish dowry from her royal relatives. The most sentimental and treasured gift came from her grandmother and godmother, Queen Victoria. At first, it was a pair of exquisite hair combs, each topped with a diamond star centered around a large pearl. Star motifs were at the height of fashion in the late 19th century, and Princess Victoria, practical and stylish, decided to combine the two separate pieces into a single tiara. The result became one of her favorite formal jewels. We know that this very diadem graced the head of her daughter, Princess Alice of Battenberg, at her wedding to Prince Andrew of Greece in 1903, securing its status as a family wedding relic. But the fate of this extraordinary jewel was sealed in the summer of 1914. Princess Victoria traveled to Russia to visit one of her younger sisters, Empress Alexandra Fedorovna, wife of Nicholas II. Hoping to shine at the opulent Romanov court, she brought her finest jewels, including the star tiara. But as she enjoyed her stay, the First World War suddenly erupted. Europe's borders began to close at alarming speed. Victoria had to leave Russia in haste, racing to return to England before the continent was fully blocked. In the chaos of departure, fearing for the safety of her jewels on a long journey through a war-torn Europe, she made a fateful decision. She left her valuables locked in the imperial palace's secure vaults, believing Petrograd to be a safe haven. She was not alone in this mistake. Her cousin, Queen Marie of Romania, also sent much of her treasury and personal jewels to Russia, trusting the Romanov Empire as the safest possible storage for the Allies' gold. But history would prove otherwise. After the revolution of 1917 and the chaos that followed, the trail of both collections vanished. Despite decades of diplomatic attempts and private investigations, neither the Romanian treasures nor the Battenberg jewels, including the original star tiara, were ever found. They disappeared without a trace, becoming one of the unsolved mysteries of the century. This irreplaceable loss created a void in the family's history, one that would later have to be filled by forging a new heirloom to restore the broken tradition. This dramatic loss could have ended the tiara's story forever, if not for the intervention of one of the family's most influential women, Princess Louise, Duchess of Argyll. As aunt and godmother to Princess Victoria, she could not accept that her niece had been robbed of her most important ceremonial jewel. In a gesture of exceptional generosity and dynastic solidarity, the Duchess made a decision that allowed the tiara to be reborn from the ashes. She gifted Victoria a new tiara adorned with diamond stars and pearl centers. Remarkably, the piece looked almost identical to the original wedding gift from Queen Victoria in 1884. This striking similarity allowed the family to preserve its visual continuity, and the new piece officially inherited the title of the Mountbatten Star Tiara, becoming a symbol of the family's rebirth under their anglicized surname after renouncing German titles in 1917. The new tiara instantly became Princess Victoria's most important jewel in the post-war years, but its story as a wedding heirloom was only beginning. The next chapter opened in 1922, when Victoria's younger son, Lord Louis Mountbatten, married the wealthy heiress Edwina Ashley. Following tradition, Victoria passed the recreated tiara to her son so he could present it to his bride as a wedding gift. For the young Edwina, entering one of the most distinguished families in Britain, the tiara became a symbolic welcome into the lineage. In the 1930s, as fashion shifted toward cleaner lines and a lighter, more geometric aesthetic, the tiara underwent subtle changes. Lady Mountbatten, known for her impeccable sense of style, adapted the Victorian design to suit the rising Art Deco mood. It was in this updated form that the tiara earned its place in fashion history. In 1937, the legendary photographer Cecil Beaton captured Edwina wearing the star tiara for Vogue. The portrait became an iconic image of pre-war aristocratic elegance. Yet Edwina did more than shine in the tiara herself. She continued the family tradition of passing it down. The jewel, reborn as a replacement for a lost treasure, became the centerpiece at her elder daughter Patricia's wedding in 1946. As Patricia walked down the aisle to marry John Knatchbull, the same diamond stars that had adorned her mother decades earlier glittered above her veil, symbolizing an unbroken thread of memory that survived even through war and upheaval. The tiara would appear at several more Mountbatten weddings, worn by daughters and daughters-in-law, but Patricia's bridal portrait remains one of its most iconic moments. No account of the collection would be complete without mentioning the pieces connected to one of the most dazzling social unions of the 20th century, the marriage of Patricia's parents, Lord Louis Mountbatten and Edwina Ashley, heiress to the Castle Empire. Their 1922 wedding embodied the peak of the Roaring Twenties, and the exchange of gifts between them entered social lore as a symbol of both extravagance and affection. These were not mere objects of wealth. They represented the joining of ancient royal blood with immense modern fortune. Despite his illustrious background, Louis Mountbatten did not possess the vast financial resources of his bride. Still, wanting to astonish her, he gave her a magnificent Art Deco bracelet, a masterpiece of contemporary jewelry design. The piece featured a bold geometric layout, the icy brilliance of round diamonds framing deep blue sapphires, the clear sparkle of zircons, and the rich red glow of garnets. Experts estimate that the bracelet cost around $4,500, an extraordinary amount in the early 1920s, equivalent to the price of a well-appointed home. For a young naval officer, it was an act of extraordinary generosity, meant to underline the seriousness of his intentions and the depth of his love. Edwina's response was no less striking and perfectly reflected her bold, modern, unconventional personality. Instead of traditional gifts for the groom, such as cufflinks or a watch, she presented Louis with the keys to a brand new Rolls-Royce. This gesture became a sensation in London's social circles. If Louis's bracelet symbolized tradition and timeless beauty, Edwina's gift embodied speed, progress, and the new age the British aristocracy was entering. Their exchange set the tone for their entire life together, a life of glamour, travel, and mutual admiration, an atmosphere their daughter Patricia would later inherit. Within Patricia's collection, this bracelet held a place of honor, not only as an example of high Art Deco craftsmanship, but also as a sentimental relic. It stood as a reminder of the time when her parents were young, daring, and full of hope, and when the world itself stood on the brink of great change. The contrast between the classical luxury of gemstones and the technological marvel of an early Rolls-Royce perfectly captured the spirit of the Mountbatten family, a family in which reverence for the past always moved hand in hand with a forward-looking vision of the future. Alongside its ceremonial regalia, the Countess's collection also contained pieces that reflected her personal character, a woman far less rigid than the aristocratic world around her. One of the most charming examples was a piece of early 20th century jeweled whimsy, a gold pig-shaped purse from 1905. Made of textured gold and set with rubies and diamonds, it was a classic example of Edwardian objet de fantaisie, luxury items created purely for delight. For Patricia, it was a playful way to show humor within the constraints of formal society. Another deeply personal piece was a bracelet given to Patricia by Lord Mountbatten on her 21st birthday. Unlike traditional parures gifted upon coming of age, this bracelet carried symbolic meaning. A gold chain held 10 enamel medallions, each depicting a milestone from Patricia's years in the Girl Guides, including her leadership of the Kingfisher Patrol. This artifact highlighted a central Mountbatten value, service and character over vanity, and remained one of the Countess's most cherished keepsakes. The Art Deco era was represented in the collection by a remarkable ensemble, crowned by the Braburn tiara. Created around 1925, it was a textbook example of geometric design, a row of sleek diamond panels joined by a central old-cut pendant. The piece had the versatility typical of its time. The upper trefoil cluster could be detached and worn as a separate brooch. The tiara was purchased by Lady Doreen Braburn, Patricia's mother-in-law, and was frequently worn during her husband's appointments as governor of Bombay and Bengal, becoming part of the visual identity of British authority in India. Completing this grand parure were Lady Brauburn's diamond earrings, also dating to the mid-1920s. Their design exuded understated luxury, a marquise-cut diamond top suspending a flexible cluster that ended in a large pear-shaped stone. The historical significance of this set was affirmed at the highest level in 1953, when Countess Mountbatten chose the Braburn tiara and these earrings to attend the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II at Westminster Abbey. Her ensemble was completed by a platinum transformable necklace, a technical marvel that could be reconfigured into a necklace and 2 bracelets through an ingenious system of hidden clasps. A distinct exotic chapter in the family's history was defined by its Indian period, inseparable from Lord Louis Mountbatten's role as the last Viceroy of India. This political and emotional connection found tangible expression in the family's Tutti Frutti jewelry by Cartier. The centerpiece was a necklace created in the 1950s, described by experts as a hinged garland of carved rubies, sapphires, and emeralds shaped to resemble leaves and berries. These vivid stones, framed by round diamonds and sapphire beads, evoked the lavish splendor of Mughal treasures. Its estimated value was around $70,000. The set also included Bombay-style earrings and a pair of brooch clips in the same technique, enriched with baguette diamonds. Interestingly, the pieces bear no maker's mark but survive in their original Warts-E case. For Lady Edwina, and later for Patricia, this set represented far more than fashion. It embodied the family's deep emotional bond with India and their memories of the years when the Mountbatten name shaped the destiny of the subcontinent. Alongside these avant-garde 20th century designs, the collection also preserved classical Victorian naturalism. The finest example was the floral necklace, created in the 1880s. Its design mimicked a living garland of ivy leaves and wild rosebuds, paved with old-cut cushion and rose-cut diamonds. It was a technical triumph of its age. With a hidden system of joints and mounts, the flexible necklace could be affixed to a rigid frame and transformed into a tiara. Likely inherited from Edwina, this versatile piece was frequently worn by Patricia's younger sister, Lady Pamela, in official portraits of the 1950s, serving as a visual thread back to the era of Queen Victoria. The collection concluded with relics linking the family to Britain's legacy of naval exploration. One exceptional piece was the pendant known as the Banks diamond. Its centerpiece, a large yellow cushion-cut diamond, was surrounded by diamond scrolls and 3 pear-shaped drops. The gem's history traced back to the 18th century and to Sir Joseph Banks, the legendary botanist and companion of Captain Cook. The pendant belonged to Banks' sister, Sarah Banks, and passed through the Knatchbull line for 2 centuries. On the reverse, a glass-covered locket preserved interwoven hair and the initials JSB, turning the jewel into a tangible artifact of the Age of Discovery. The maritime theme, central to Lord Mountbatten's life, found a personal echo in the diamond wave brooch. Designed by Earl Mountbatten himself, its sweeping diamond curve resembled a cresting sea wave, symbolizing his decades of naval service. It was given to Patricia as a special occasion gift. In 1986, the Countess chose this very brooch for her official portrait as honorary colonel of the Canadian Light Infantry, reinforcing the family's long military tradition. Alongside it rested a miniature naval crown brooch, another sentimental reminder of her father's career. In 2017, following the Countess's passing, this remarkable collection was brought to auction at Sotheby's. The dispersal of the Mountbatten estate marked the final chapter of a treasury that had, for decades, preserved the legacy of the Victorian age, the splendor of British India, and the elegance of Art Deco. Items that once served as personal talismans of viceroys and princesses passed into the hands of private collectors and museums. Yet even after leaving the halls of Newhouse, these jewels did not lose their meaning. Each lot remains a tangible testament to the grandeur and the dramatic destiny of a dynasty that stood at the helm of the British Empire during some of the most pivotal moments of the 20th century.